Hello everyone, welcome. So glad that you're here. Gotta say hello to everybody. We got quite a few of you in here already. Hoping that my sound is working okay. Let me see here. Hello Susan, you made it first again today. So glad that you're here. We got, I think it's Haneke. Please excuse me if I don't say your name correctly. Welcome. I'm very glad that you're here. Sylvia's here. We got Carol. We got Peg. Welcome, Peg. So glad that you're here today. We got Ari. Luis is here. Welcome, Luis. Welcome, Ari. We got, okay. I know, I think it's Gia. I'm hoping I got that one right. Terry's here, welcome. And let's see, we got Chrisella, Anita, and Lindsay so far. So welcome everyone. If you're in the background and you just popped in, please feel free to say hi and tell me where you're from. I'm really excited about this live today. I have been thrilled with just showing you how I bridge the gap between stick pastels and pan pastels. So I have something really exciting planned today. You can see a little bit of a demo of where we're going. So I'm pretty thrilled about that. Oh, Crystal, Crystal, okay, you're 50 Shades of Mixed Media. Okay, I got it. Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you came and said hi, Crystal. Always love it when you guys pop in and say hi. Holly's here. Welcome, Holly. We got Laura B's here. Welcome, welcome. Oh, so you're watching. Well, I would think you could watch on your TV and from your phone you could do all the chat. That's what I've done, but I'm just saying. Terry's from Texas. So glad that you came in today. All right, you guys. Well, I have a lot of stuff to talk about today. How many of you out there, you know, have dabbled in the stick pastels at all? Or, you know, I'm really curious to like what your biggest questions are about stick pastels. And I'm hoping I'm going to be able to answer a lot of those today. So what we're going to do here today is I'm going to go over a brief overview of everything and, you know, just talk about the sticks, the different types, and what makes certain brands different, how to like choose them. You know, it's very overwhelming, and I definitely got on the bandwagon. As you can see behind me, this is just a taste of my pastel sticks. So I will also talk about how I store them. And this just really shows, you know, it's a great way. I finally figured out how to store them where they don't take up a lot of studio space. That's really helped. So we have a lot today. I'm just really thrilled. And the other thing I'm going to talk about is like some beginner mistakes. What's the common beginner mistakes about choosing pastel sticks? And that, you know, I can help you, you know, think about that through a little bit. And then I'm also going to show you how to, you know, incorporate pan pastel by bridging the gap, and it'll use this as an underpainting to really save your sticks from using them all up. So, you know, pan pastel can be used as a great underpainting, and so I'm going to demo that today here for you too. Let's see here. We got Karen's here. Welcome, Karen. Margaret Smith. Hello from Virginia. Karen's from Kentucky. We got Loretta in, wow, sunny California, North California. Karen's here. That's my hubby downstairs. Hi, Karen. Oh, you got a lot of sticks. Oh, I'll be talking about Blue Earth today, Terry. I just bought some from Michael's to try out, says Debbie Reeves. Awesome. Lots, but hardly use them, says Louise. So hopefully we can change that. I have done 2 pastels, both in sticks. Okay, great, Chrisella. So you've dabbled a little bit. Peg says, she goes, I have Sennelier sticks, but I never use them. I'd like to learn something about using them. Well, you're in the right place, folks. So I'm really excited to talk about this, and we're gonna dive in to like talking about the brands first and things like that. Now first, what I'll show you so I don't forget is these are the shelves that I suggest. I'll go right here. These are the shelves and they come in stacks. So they, I'm trying to see if I can pull out one because they're really nice to be able to see. Yeah, I have one right here. Let me just grab it real quick. And then you guys can get a full visual of these. So I store all of mine in these shelves. So that, and I use this as a tray. And these are on Amazon, and this is a 6 stack. So I have 4 of these, and I put them in my studio. I have 2 underneath my easel, and I have 2 over on the side table over here that you can see down here, right there. And those I use for all my pastel pencils. So the cool thing about this setup is originally I had them in this really beautiful like color wheel. They were all out. It was very Instagrammy, all that stuff, but it wasn't realistic. And I really needed to utilize the space. So having these trays, I can store them in and then I can pull them out when I want to use them. And that really allows me to have the freedom to curate what I want and then put them back. So it's, you know, it's always lovely to be able to put your stuff out and see them. Now, I want you guys to understand that this is years worth of accumulating, like years. And I also got into a really good situation with a good friend of mine who inherited a whole bunch of sticks and we split them. So that's not really this set here though. I have another stash, but it takes time. And I definitely have made some mistakes and I've learned a lot along the ways, and that's what I'm gonna definitely talk about today. So don't let all of that overwhelm you, because it's not really about, you know, how many sticks you have. What I'm out here to show you is how to use them and choose them, because you can really make a beautiful painting with just a few sticks. So we don't need all of that. And that can be really overwhelming because when you're new, what I learned, and I'm definitely part of that, is you get really, like you feel like you got to have them all so you have all the choices. But when you start using them in your practice, you realize you don't need every single shade, especially just in the beginning. I mean, yeah, it's great to have the choices right now. I love it, but it's also, you know, you don't want to feel overwhelmed with all of the choices. So I'm hoping to help you with that a little bit today. Hi, Paula, welcome. So glad that you're here. I'm glad you're talking about brands, Dawn, because I want to buy some sticks and I don't even know how much about the brands when it comes to them. Yeah, I'm definitely going to help you out with that today. Hopefully I can get it all fit in because I feel like I have so much, but it's so funny how quick things can happen. My husband just walked in and heard you talking. He said, why do I feel like another art purchase is about to happen? I do have a superpower of enabling. So sorry, I'm kind of in that mode here. Now, as you can see, I have just a few pan pastels up here. Those are my real darks. I'm going to use that for an underpainting. And we're going to go right into talking about some of the brands though. So I have my favorites, but I really feel like all of them have a great place. And the differences with sticks is like pan pastel is ultra soft. So when you use pan pastel, it needs to be used in all of the bottom layers. Sticks can then go on top of them. So for instance, this would be a great thing before we dive in there. Let me just show you this because I want to show you this week's lesson this last week's lesson. Let me see if I can back up just a little bit. Okay, so this is Where Dreams Grow. This is last week's pastel and cider lesson. And I gave you guys a little demo with a collage and all of that in last week's live stream. So this was the lesson for Where Dreams Grow. Now, this is all created in pan pastel. So if I wanted to use sticks, I would put a more brief underpainting down and then layer on with sticks. And that allows me not to have to use up all my precious sticks. When you work with PanPastel, it allows you not to have to be so scared to use your precious sticks. And so I've always, you know, with the lessons and everything, I've used pencils kind of as a little bridge between sticks and PanPastel. And basically sticks are just a big version of a pencil. So if you guys have really enjoyed all the pencil work and all of that, that's how I would, you know, I stopped using the sticks at the final stages. I was doing that a lot. Like for all of these little mark making and little doohickeys and stuff, I was using sticks at this stage and then adding another layer of sticks on. So that's one way I like to show how to use sticks. So this lesson though, if you're interested in it, it's in my Pastel Insider membership. I have over 50 lessons now, which I'm pretty stoked and proud of. And all of this, like what I'm talking about today, I'll be having a lesson this week that's going to dive deeper and take you on a full journey step by step. So if you're into wanting to dive in more, definitely check out my Pastel Insider membership. There's no commitment. You can try it out, see how you like it. And I definitely think there's a little bit of something for everyone in there. So now I'm going to go into, let me zoom back in here. And then what, the first sticks that I really started buying was I got my Sennelier sticks. And there was a sale happening, and Dakota Pastel online is the best place where I find you can get the top of the line sticks. So here's the difference. If you go buy a lower end stick, what you're navigating is that they're going to be maybe harder, they're not going to have as much pigment in them, and they're going to have more percentage of binder in them. So if you're dealing with frustration with the sticks, they're soft pastel, but there's like 5 levels of soft pastel within the sticks. So this is something to really consider. PanPastel is ultra soft. It has barely any binders in them. It is basically painting with pigment. So we would use these as an underpainting and bringing them up, like I said, and then you can put sticks on top of them because they are so soft like that. You can't really go over a stick. You would try that out and you can see what it's like, but it doesn't really work. So with that said, they work as a great underpainting. Now, when we're dealing with buying sticks, there's all different types of brands, and the hardest brands are like Nupastel, Holbein. Those are a harder stick, and those can be used for like gesturals, you know, lines, grass, you know, doing things. Let me see here if I can get a piece of paper up here. And they can be used for, you know, like say you did a PanPastel underpainting, then your harder sticks are going to go next. And then your medium sticks are going to go next. And then you're going to have these like really crown jewels of like ultra soft, buttery, really beautiful soft pastels. And those, let me see, can I get up here? I might go up here and then zoom out a little bit just for this part. And then with those sticks, those are those little gems that you don't want to use those at the bottom or in the middle. Those are really expensive. They're bought out for certain little highlights and moments. And so you want to work with your sticks in thinking of it that way. Let me see here. All right. All right. There we go. All right, let me check out the chat here real quick. He's very smart, Luis. That's so funny. I know, I tell my husband's very grateful I'm not into handbags and shoes, but the art supplies. Hi, Roswitha. I don't know if I got that right, but welcome. So glad that you're here. New to PanPastels are on the way. What else is new for me? Well, I'm basically, Margaret, really PanPastel forward, but I am once a month, I'm going to be doing a little bit about sticks. And so that's this week. And then I'm going to do a deeper lesson in my Pastel Insider membership about sticks too. But we're working with PanPastel too. Let's see. Pam, welcome. So glad that you're here. I'm glad that you could get up here too. Okay, you guys, Samaj is here. Welcome, Samaj. Happy to catch up again today. Question, do the sticks have a creamier consistency different from soft pastel? Well, I'm definitely talking about that. So, Dawn, I like how you have explained that, Dawn, basically like our pencils are hard and soft. 100%, Louise. So you're going to have that creamy butter stick, you're going to have that medium stick, and you're going to have the really hard stick. So something like a Nupastel or a Holbein, I have the set of Holbein too. They're going to be used where, you know, I don't even really want to keep them really big. I want them to be smaller, so I'm going to break them up. But you can use these to draw in and do all that type of stuff. And we're going to go way deeper into this with my lesson this week. But these are definitely more like on the bottom. And I'm going to start out the demo with these harder sticks. Now, I have demoed, you can do an alcohol underpainting. You can do a watercolor underpainting. But I'm just going to show you how we can usually basically do a PanPastel underpainting. You can take these and scribble them on and then put alcohol over them. I've demoed that in using pencils and stuff like that in one of the lives before, and I'm planning on doing more of that. But today we're just going to focus on PanPastel being our underpainting. So then you have so we got our Holbein, which are a harder stick, and like a Nupastel. So a lot of people with Nupastel, they're going to sketch with them and do all that. And I'm going to show you, I'm not about the tradition here. I'm about trying to show you a way that you can use it yourself, that you just feel excited and inspired by. We're not here to do what the traditionalists are doing. I mean, if I was working more abstract, I could do that, but I just want to, you know, build a strong foundation for you so you're not overwhelmed in how I've approached it. So that's kind of what we're doing today. So for today, like I'll show you, I've curated, whoops, I got one down. So that's the one thing you don't want to drop them. Let's see here. I'm going to go like this. So I've curated this little set here. It's quite a few sticks, but it's just because I wanted to show you different hardnesses and things like that. So, but the one thing I want you to notice is there's a value range. So the value range, let me see if I can go like this. The value range in them is how I've got it kind of lined out here. I have some dark values and I have some light, but right now you're seeing about middle because I'm going to use my PanPastel as my darks in here. But the biggest pitfalls that people get into is they'll be like, oh, I'm going to go buy these beautiful pastel sticks, and they don't really know what they're buying. So you want to know like what range. So like I've talked about the hard ones, now we're going to go to like medium. So like Rembrandt's like a medium. Blick, I would say they have a line that's like a medium hardness. And so when you're doing and working with those, they're going to be a little bit harder and shinier, but they'll still go on really nice. But what I've found with these is you can't layer on and layer on as much. They will fill a tooth, and they'll also, and that's why you want to go to maybe like, I have a Schmincke. Schmincke is a very soft, so that's going to go on top many, many more layers. So the softer you go, that's the higher layers you're going to be applying them onto. And this one, this hard one, I can use it on a lower layer, and I can also use it on a higher layer if I want to put marks in here at the end or do something like that. But I'll probably, you know, you can use it on its side and things like that. And I'll be going into, you know, different types of mark making and all of that into the deeper lesson this week too. So the creme of la creme is like Schmincke, because they're super soft. Terry Ludwig, really, really soft. And I have that, I wrote out in here, let me grab it, a little list of like some, let's see if I can find it. Yep, I actually have it. So like Schmincke, Diane Townsend, let's talk about Diane Townsend. Diane Townsend, I have all these like tirages and these hand-rolled type of vibe. So when you're dealing with these tirages, these are a little bit more of a medium stick. And so is, you know, they're considered on the soft scale. I did get like a, you can go to pastel.com and they have a whole like PDF you can download, and it will list all of the different hardnesses of the pastel. I'm popping that up right now to put that. But like the Townsend ones, they are probably on the lower end of the softer one. I think, yeah, they're basically like a 9. So like Schmincke is like the softest you could get. And like Blue Earth is really, really soft. They're a lot softer than the their Terry Ludwig. And Terry Ludwig is really popular, but it's very expensive. So I got some pricing I also want to talk a little bit. But like Senellier, so the people wanting to do like the half sticks, like I have a little half stick here. This is Senellier. This is a great value for your money, but I also hem-haw because it's like when you buy a set, like this set is the urban set, and it's called the Plein Air. And oh, I got to get my screen up so I can actually see it. So this Plein Air set, these are right up there with a super soft kind of vibe. So with that being said, you know, you're going to be using these on the upper layers. And I would probably use these on top of like a tirage or, you know, something like that because they are so soft. So this set, I would try to use something harder down below and then go softer on the top. So let's see here. I have Mount Vision is a little bit harder than like the tirages, and I'm going to go and show you some visuals on this. Like this is a Mount Vision. I really love it. I think they are a beautiful happy medium. They're a great like base set. They're not too hard and they're not too soft, and their price point's really good. So let me show you some sets, and I want to show you what one of the most common kind of pitfalls is. So I have to get into my photos here just a second, and then I'll catch up on chat in just a second. So one of the most common pitfalls when you are buying them is the colors. You're going to be like, ooh, those are really bright and beautiful. I'm going to buy those. And like this set right here, I have to get my screen so I can see just a sec. So you're going to get some reflection from my window, so I'm trying to get it at the right angle. So you can see that these are pretty bright. It's a beautiful set. They're gorgeous. And yeah, they might be great to have in your set. But if you look here, I'm going to turn them to black and white. You have so many that are in a really high value. So you're really high up here. And one of the biggest challenges when you're buying new sticks is to get a really good value change. You don't need the same colors that I'm using. You don't need to know the number, because I will, you know, most stick pastelists who are working and creating take all the wrappers off. So you're not going to be able to sit there and go, I'm using B9142 or whatever, unless you really get to know the brand and stuff like that. So it's not about you matching the same exact color, so try not to get caught up in that. It's about knowing how to pick out color and why. So when you're picking out color and you're buying color, you really want to get some value ranges in there. You want to get some neutrals in there, something that's not so bright. And that is one of the biggest pitfalls that I would say a new pastel stick buyer gets into. So with that being said, like here's an example of a dark set. Whoops. Here's an example of a dark set. So this is basically Mount Vision. I got to go to Dakota Pastel and take a workshop from an amazing artist. His name was Tony Elaine, and he was a very traditional stick pastelist. And I went and I learned a lot, and I ended up buying the Mount Vision set I'm going to show you. I think these are great, and they're huge. The sticks are really large. I would pop them in half right away and put them in my set and then store the other half away, or you can split it with a friend. I've split many sets with my friends. So I'm going to just check in with chat because I don't want to run away here. And I also make sure I got enough time to do my little demo. Here we go. Okay. So I was waiting and waiting, but it's still watching. Okay. I just started with the PanPastels, so I first try to work well with them, but it's always interesting to learn more. Yeah, 100%. Like I have a ton on PanPastel, so many lives with that. And I'll be starting off with PanPastel too. Do you store all the different hard and soft together in the same drawers? 100%, Sylvia. So in this drawer, I have all the hard and the soft. What I want to ask you guys, how do you think I'm storing these? What stands out to you that you might cue into what guides me into organizing my my stick pastels? So tell me in chat. I would love to know if you can tell me what you think, how I'm storing them. Based on color and value. That's right, Pam and Samaj. Chris, welcome Chris. Definitely color value. Sylvia, MJ says, I use my sticks down and then I put the stump of the small chip down on the same paper as a swatch. Yeah, you'll find your own way. Honestly, you guys, I have not had to rebuy any sticks very much. They last a long time, you guys. So you can get really caught up in color swatching, but let me just say, you just got to use them. You just got to show up and use them. I have color swatched, and I actually started doing a whole 3-ring binder, and it got really time consuming. And then I was like, I can't do this. I'm spending all my time swatching them. So I just started using them. And once you start using them, you get to know and you learn a lot. So let's see. I just started with okay, do you store? I got all that one. How do you ever remember what brand they are and color? Luis, you do learn. You learn. Like I can tell this is a Mount Vision by the way it's shaped. I have a lot of different ones. This is a Terry Ludwig from the way it's shaped. They sell them in big rectangles. This is a Schmincke because of the way it's shaped. You just learn. You learn. I will say that some of them blend together. My Sennelier, the Sennelier half sticks, the half sticks are great, but you have to buy a set with the half sticks. So, like this set isn't too bad, and then maybe I could buy some individuals on top of that. But like, today I could work with this set probably pretty well and do the exact demo. So the half stick is a great price point. Now let's talk a little bit about prices, and then I'll talk about a few more of the sticks, and then we're going to move on through that because all of this stuff I'm going to go deeper. I can only do so much during the live, but I could talk a lot about sticks. It's like I've been unleashed. I've been talking about PanPastel for years, and yeah. So like Mount Vision, for instance, those are the ones I was showing you here on the screen. These Mount Vision. So I bought this set. Let me show you. This is a really beautiful set. I'm trying to think of what the name is. Let's see if they have it. It's called the Storm set. And Mount Vision Storm set. I really loved it because of the neutral blues that are in it. It had a full range. Look at the range in there. So you can see this beautiful range, and they have a lot of neutrals in the set. So look at the difference between like this set and then this really high key set. These are like, these will be neon on your paper. So you have to really think about how is that going to look when you're actually, and you don't know unless you're actually using them. So you can see here that I didn't really have these neutrals that I really love, these blues and all of that. So that's what I really love about this set, like these purples and all of the warm and cool purples, the violet and the magenta. And so that's an example of a set that I bought. So with that pricing, like the Mount Vision is like $4.70 each. So it can add up. And a set, if you buy a set, they're like $4.68. So you really don't save a ton buying a set as you would think. Sometimes it's just worth curating it yourself, or even going into the details of a set and going, okay, maybe I'll grab, you know, this row or just this row, and they'll list out what's in the set. And you can look and buy a few of them. Love these blues right here. So I was really glad that I had the whole thing. So you don't need to buy them all. You can curate a few, and buying them from the individual versus the set sometimes doesn't always save you. Now here's the crux of the whole thing. So the Senellier sells these half sticks. I would not buy their full sticks because they are these little skinny things. Let me show you an example. Let me find one here. They're this. This is a Senellier. And here is their half stick. So what happens is that these crumble for some odd reason. You'll unwrap them and your heart will just go, oh my God, it's broke or crumbled. It's very common for them to crumble when you unwrap them. And you do not use them with the wrappers on, guys. Like, I went to a full workshop with Tony Elaine. He's like a master artist. Like, you do not keep you keep the wrappers on when you're not using them, just to pull for inventory. But yeah, you always take your wrappers off. And so these crumble, these ones are not sold individually in these beautiful big larger sticks. I think you can get them in another size up, but yeah, so that's kind of, but you do get a taste and they'll last you for a long time. They're not, they don't go quick, and I break them in half because I want to use them in different ways. So I wouldn't really suggest buying the Senellier full sticks. That's a lot of pastel too, but they do crumble. So that gets me into, like, I love the Mount Vision for the price point. Mount Vision is $4.70 a thing, but they're huge. I mean, this is a half stick. So the other stick is, you know, here. I split them with my good friend. Her and I bought the whole set. Ivy and I went. We went in on it, and then we just split them, and that's how we did that. So that was a great way to save. But those are really great. The Diane Townsend, I love these tirages. I want to do a whole demo in just the tirages of doing these mark making because they have some really cool vibe. Now tirages and Diane Townsend has like a pumice filler in them, a binder. You know, it's part of her thing. So they have a really interesting, little bit more of a gritty vibe, but they're beautifully saturated. They're gorgeous. So these are a lot of fun just to have different, you know, mark making, and I just love them. So I have a lot of these tirages. These are really fun, and they are a little bit lower on the scale for softness. So they're probably at the, let's see, the tirages are about a 10, and that's out of, like, let's see how many. We have 18 on here, and I'll put a link to this hardness scale in my link below after the live. And then, yeah, Unison sticks too. They're a great brand. I've heard many things. I have a few of them. I have a couple of Unison in here. I heard they're really amazing. I think they're great quality. I don't think you could go wrong. They're a step down from the Senellier, and they are a little bit harder than a little bit softer than a Terry Ludwig. So that's going to go into this one set that I kind of find that I want to get to try out just to demo, because I don't think, you know, you're not going to buy a whole set that's going to be, you could use it for a whole painting, but what I'm going to show you here today is how you use multiple hard and soft to work through a piece. So you really don't need a ton, guys, like you really don't. But you want to get a good enough range so you're not working with a whole bunch of brights. Like this one, there's not a ton of brights in that. That's what it has going for it. Like some of the colors I'm going to show today are in this set. So I got a good value here. I still have like even this skin tone, so I'd probably break this in half to use it. Sometimes they get a little rough. You got to knock off the coating on them. But yeah, so this set has quite a range, and it still has like this darker grayish kind of vibe. But so yeah, this is a beautiful set. They are definitely on the softer number 4 in the whole thing. So I want to talk about this one set before we dive in, and then I'll go into chat here and I'll answer any of the questions that maybe I missed that you guys might be asking. Oh, here's an example of a Diane Townsend set that they have there. This is the portrait set. And I just thought it had a really lovely range. It still got a lot of brights in it, so I was a little bit, but I wanted to at least show you what the set looked like. Now, this is Blue Earth. I'm gonna fix my monitor here again, just a sec. It helps me see everything. Okay, so this is Blue Earth, and Blue Earth, what I love about them is it really works how I like to work. It really works how PanPastel's set up. And I think I want to buy this set. This set is like $200, so it is a little spendy. Let me get my pricing up. Yeah, it's $209, and this is called the Nomad set. It's very popular. It's actually considered a travel set. But look at the values, and their values are just like PanPastel. They're going from a dark to a light, and they have a great range. And the thing is that like there's an artist that I know, she uses a lot of Terry Ludwig, and they are on the soft range. But if you're incorporating them with PanPastel and, you know, anything on top of that, they'd be perfect. So that is why I'm thinking about buying this set, because of the value range. And look at the neutrals in there. Beautiful neutrals, semi-neutrals, got a couple brights in there, and it's just a great balance of a set. Now, I haven't personally used this set, but I'm just saying, I'm just really curious about it. It is softer, but the way I'm going to show you today, I don't think you could go wrong with that, because of, you know, I'm not building up from a base all the way to the top that I want to use one type with. All right, I'm going to catch up with chat here just a second. So if they're hard, they're for the base layers, whereas if you get softer, you use them for the upper layers. That's exactly true, Samaj. And I talked about Unison. Hi, Sten, welcome. So glad that you're here. Yeah, I don't write down, MJ. I'm a lost cause with writing down all my stuff. I don't even do a scratch sheet, nothing. I'll just, you know, if I get to the end of something, I'll write it down, you know, look at it, and then I'll go find something close, because it's okay. I'm okay to find something close. I haven't really had to reorder very many at all. So that kind of shows you how you don't really need to order that many. Okay, Gia says it's very interesting and informative about values. Value, that's a great point. I always get drawn in by color without any thought to value. Value is the key of buying your sticks. When I started buying them, I was buying them blind, guys, and then now I've spent a ton of time going in and buying darks. I have a whole bunch of like, look at my darks here. Let me get my thing clear so I can see. So I'm zooming in. I don't know why it's doing that. It just flipped on. So just a second. There we go. So these are, you know, this range right here was I had to really purposely curate it. I went and got a lot of tirages that were dark. I really love the tirages and the Diane Townsend, because she in the beginning was one of the biggest dark brands that I could really find that gave me that really dark look. I mean, this is almost black, so I was kind of obsessed. And you can see how dark that is, but it's got a beautiful blue hue to it. And that's what you kind of want. Sometimes black can be really dull, and it can really dull things out. So it's nice to have some beautiful color ranges in here. This is like a Mount Vision, really beautiful, rich, dark. So so I had to go and push all that. For instance, I just received like a whole bunch from my friend who inherited them, a ton of Rembrandt, a ton of Schmincke. And I actually was quite shocked at how bright they all were. They really didn't have a lot of neutrals in them. They were really, really bright and kind of lopsided in their line. So you have to really go out of your way to get those neutrals and those brights, because if you're just working with brights, your eye doesn't, you want to give neutrals, you want to give the brights, you want to have the darks to develop your whole painting and by values. Okay, let's see here. Laura is here. Welcome, Laura. So glad that you're here. Okay. MJ says, when you buy the more costly brands, the full sets come with a number swatch sheets. Oh, yeah. MJ's into swatching. Terry Ludwig, I went through and I swatched all those. I bought the portrait set of Terry Ludwig. It was a big present to myself. I ended up splitting them in half and selling them to a good friend of mine because she was just getting started, because it does take a while to go through. You definitely feel the difference when you start using them. Blick has a set of Mount Vision, 50 for $220. Yeah, don't get caught up in trying to save money per part. Like, really look at the colors and look at the values in them. And then, you know, try to even think about your PanPastels even and how they're set up and what colors you're going to buy. If you want something to coexist with that, you can easily like visually match up that way too. Okay, let me see. Margaret says, I have Senellier. They're half sticks. That's a great set. Unison is a side step for Senellier. Yeah, I don't think any of the ones I've listed, you guys, are a downgrade. I think some of the, like, Blick has their own set. I think those are a little bit more like a Rembrandt. Like, I feel like I have some beautiful Blick colors that I love, but they are a little bit harder on the value scale. So if you go to dakotapastel.com, they are like I think they're the leading site for stick pastels, and they have great prices. They have sales all the time, but that's where I've bought most of my sticks, and I've actually gone to the warehouse and everything too. So let's see here. You're not downgrading. When you are downgrading, you're buying, like this whole list I have, let me read the list. I have Schmincke is number 1 on the soft. Great Americans, number 2. Blue Earth's number 3. Sennellier's number 4. Unison's number 5. Art Spectrum Extra Soft is 6. Richardson's Hand Rolled is 7. Terry Ludwig's 8. Diane Townsend is 9. Diane Townsend Tirages is 10. Blocks is 11. Gerhardt is 12. Mount Vision's 13. 14's Rembrandt. Art Spectrum's 15, like the original. Holbein and Nupastel and Created Color are 18s. These are not levels of good or bad. These are levels of hardness to soft. All of these brands are really professional, high quality pigment pastels. You can do a lot with them. I don't think you would go wrong buying any of those brands. So I'm just saying, for the Senellier full sticks, unwrapping them, they do get a little crumbly, but they're beautiful when you use them. All right. let's see here. Yes, that is the frustrating thing with them. Hi Shiva, so glad you made it here today. Haneke, so glad you're enjoying it. Did you mention your storage system earlier? Yep, I already mentioned that, Pam. I'll link that up in the links below after the live. I didn't know exactly what everything I was going to do for the live today. So Karen says, I have too many sets of soft pastels, A to Z. The last set I purchased was Gordon Benchy's handmade set. You know what? That's great, Karen. You'll be able to just pull values from them in hard and soft. You can just try that out. You don't need any more if you have some already. You definitely want to play with them. Let's see. I have a small set of Rembrandt and a small set of Unison and some basic sticks from Blick. Cheryl, that's great. So what you have to think about now is values. We got to find dark, medium, and light values. So the value scale is important. I find that can be really helpful in picking your colors. You know, take a photo of them, turn them to black and white and see if they have a good value range. I also like if they have a couple of similar colors in the range. Like I'm pulling colors here. You can see, you know, I have a few of these colors in a range. I'm not just having one or two, you know, I have a few in this range. I have a few greens in here. I got a few violets in here. So I'm going to be talking more about that, diving deeper into that, into the full lesson that I'm doing for the Pastel Insider. So if you definitely want to know more and get a step-by-step full lesson, we're going to be doing that this week too. All right, so I think I'm caught up on chat. I'm going to take a drink of water here, and I'm going to go into the next phase of what we're going to talk about here. And let me get my sheet up here. All right, making sure I have a lot to talk about today. All right, so we're going to go in and we're going to start talking about an underpainting. And I'm going to go into the demo here in just a second. Do you prefer darks to be on the hard side and lights to be on the softer? That's a really good question, Jennifer. You get like a gold star today. Like that is a really good question. I would say that I don't mind the darks being like in the range of Diane Townsend. Those are a little bit harder. A Rembrandt. I don't mind them in the Nupastels. You're going to see I'm going to use them. But I'm going to cut a lot of the darks out by showing you how I'm going to underpaint with PanPastel. So that's going to save you too. So if you don't get enough darks, that's why a lot of mine I use as finishing touches in a lot of my lessons. So you're going to see that too. I think getting darks, it's fine to have them a little bit on the harder side. And you're also going to, you know, get a hang of it and you'll go, oh my gosh, I need to go maybe buy a couple colors in this range that are a little bit softer. Once you get to know them, you know, like splurging on that Terry Ludwig set kind of set me up. Like I've done a full portrait with the Terry Ludwig set. It's really beautiful, but they are really, really expensive. So that's why I'm kind of thinking like the Mount Vision, I really love that. I heard great things about Unison, so I've used a few of those. They're kind of similar. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. Darks on the lower layers and lights. But you're going to be seeing how I'm working with them here. So I'm going to go in. Wow, I haven't even looked at how many were in chat today. I got 58 of you today. Almost a record. I think 65 was my record, but that's awesome that you guys are all here. Now you're going to give me just a minute. I'm going to zoom in because I want you guys to be able to see everything nice and close. All right, let me just make sure. It looks like I'm pretty focused here. So the other thing I really love about like using the sticks is more of the painterly vibe. Like I love trying to do that with my PanPastel too, and I think I do a great job with that. Like I can get that in like this face. I feel like I got more of a painterly look in that face. I also, it's all depends on what look you're kind of going after. And so that can guide you on, what you're trying to achieve. So my goal is to weave in, the sticks with the pan pastels so it doesn't feel so overwhelming. Let's see here. And I'm hoping to save you guys a lot on my journey of the mistakes I made. But, with every mistake I made, I learned a lot. So that, really has helped me along the way. So I'm getting to my spot here. Okay. So we're going to use the pan pastel to gently block in shapes and to get our piece started. So I'm going to put my little eye over here. I could even put well, I'll just leave it right here. I'll give you guys something to look at. Maybe I'll put it over here. Excuse the back of my head. There we go. All right, so we got our eye over here, and I'm gonna get started. So you have multiple ways you could get started with this. I'm gonna do a simple demo, but these demos can really help you just loosen up. I'm really trying to get you guys out of the mindset of having to finish something to share, or finish something. You can share the eye, you can share whatever, but I want you to think about maybe, getting in the mindset of these practices will really level up your art. So I just have a charcoal pencil. You can even use a wand and go in, but I thought, a charcoal pencil is easy. And I could even use, if I want to be really messy, I could use this Nupastel. See, it's the same type of vibe. So I'm just going to get my eye going here. And you don't have to be super clean on this layer. This is just, for fun. And I'm not using a reference. I just love eyes, so I've done a lot of them. And this little part is my favorite. I always like to try to get that on there, and around the eye is always a little bit darker. And then we have this going on. Make sure that's kind of centered. All right. So there's just our little basics of an eye. And then I'm just going to grab a wand for my pan pastel. And we want to think about like the warms and cools, because that is what's going to really kind of make this sing. And I had a little thing right here, but I can't find it, but that's fine. But using warms and cools will help kind of create a color vibration that they play off of each other in a really fun way. So wherever I think my shadows are going to be, I'm going to go in with this like extra dark violet, and I can just play with that, underneath the eye. Now, the thing I want to talk about is I'm using the UArt 600 paper. That might be important to talk about really quick. This I've curated this specifically for pan pastel. It takes a lot of layers. You can do a lot with it with the tools, and then you want something to work harmoniously together. So if I went with a harder paper, like a rougher grain, like a 400, a lot of stick pastelists will use a 400 grade pastel paper. Now, with that being said, that can be where, it's going to dig up my tools, and I want something to work together. Now, this is still going to take plenty of layers, so it's fine to work and do them both together. So I love that they can, be together and work together in this way. So like underneath, so what we're trying to do is instead of doing a really messy underpainting, we're doing a little bit of a controlled underpainting. And with that, I'm going to block in kind of where those are. And these are kind of our cooler spots. And then inside the eye, this is one of the biggest learning moments. I don't want to say mistake, because it's taking time to learn, but the insides of people's eyes are not white. You got to go a lot darker on the insides of eyes. So I'm going to go in here with my violet and put some of my shadows in. And that's going to create some depth. So we want that ivory paper to be covered up, and we don't want it peeking through all throughout. And so that's why we're kind of doing this little underpainting thing here. I'm going to go a little lighter on these sides here. And now I'm going to go in with a warmer color. So I'm going to use my red iron oxide because I want all that to kind of peek through. And skin has kind of that luminous effect. So the coolness of the violet and the warmness of the red iron oxide are going to play off of each other. So I know my eyelid is in a warmer section. It's going to go lighter up here, but I'm fine kind of blocking that in. I can use the paper if I wanted to, but I'm just showing an underpainting today, so I'm just going to go with the whole thing. So then we have our skin underneath here. I can even use some burnt sienna. And then up here we have the eye, brow area. And then we have a little bit in here. And so you can see how I've got quite a bit covered. It looks a little messy. That's totally fine. It's just an underpainting, guys. So don't put too much pressure on it. And then I can even go in with my black and darken some, but I can do that with the sticks too. So now this is going to save me from using too much of my precious sticks, because PanPastel goes on and on and on forever. You're also in a more controlled underpainting. You're not like, yeah, is it fun? Is it fun to go take alcohol and go, wee, 100%. That works really well with like traditional landscape, or if you want to have a messier, you know, start to your work, and you kind of know and you have the skills to be able to wield it and develop it. But with this, it kind of gives you a little bit of like, okay, I'm breaking these down step by steps. I know where I'm going, and that gives me more confidence. So now I'm going to go in. I want my eye to be this beautiful green. It's probably going to play off of our red, which is a complementary, and yellows are complementary to the violet. So we're all going to be happily playing together here. And I can hit some black with that and darken the top, because I like to make my eyes dramatic. I don't like a lot of drama in my life, but I like drama when I'm painting, and that is fun for me. I can even go around. Now these eyes, we like them to be a little bit darker around. You can see how I can use that PanPastel. Any little spots that I see peeking out, I'm gonna kind of cover. I'll be going over this with a lighter color, so it's fine. And then I can go in here in the center, kind of get my iris in there. And then this is basically where I'm at. Like I could keep going with PanPastel, of course. As you can all know, you can do this with PanPastel too, but I'm just getting a good base in there. Getting some of those darks in there. So this is what I would consider like an underpainting. And you can do that with your piece. It's basically just like the blocking in stage that I do. And then you can go into the next stage here. So I'm going to catch up on chat, and then I'm going to take you on the next step for the sticks. Darks on the, okay, we did painterly vibe, more blended and soft. Yeah, Samaj, when I say painterly, I'm also like looser strokes. So if you look over here, this is a lot looser strokes. It looks like a paintbrush did it. That is what I mean by painterly. When you overwork, like really go into hyper realism, that's not necessarily overworking. I don't want to put a negative connotation on that. When you're going into like hyper realism and you're making it super perfect and tight, that's not as painterly. That's more realism. So I want to loosen things up and have it look more, I like to call it artsy and painterly. So that's what, that's how I've been kind of navigating it. Have you ever replaced a PanPastel? Gia says. Yes, I've replaced probably half my set, and that's over 7 years. So half my set hasn't been replaced and half has. And that is only for 80 colors, so 40 of them I've probably replaced. I've probably replaced about 20 of them 2 or 3 times. It just depends on how much. Black, I've bought tons of black and white though, because that's like the core of the system. But that's a great question. If you guys have any other questions, definitely ask. Let's see. I would like to know, I'm going to do a little poll here. And we'll see how many of you guys, just to have a little interaction. All right, so I got a poll with a little question. Have you done an underpainting before? I'd love to know. Or are you going to be like, what is an underpainting? But I think I kind of showed you a little bit of something like an underpainting. Okay, so I'm going to go into the next stage here. And we are going to talk about going and working from like a hard to a soft. And I have these Nupastels and these Holbein, which I can play with here. So I'm trying to see. Now, I don't have all these colors mapped out. So remember, it's not about matching the color. I'm here to show you about value. And that is what we're trying to do today, is that's going to conserve your sticks, but we're more into playing with the value here. So this is more, I'll call them out in the sense this is a little bit more of a magenta vibe. You also want to lightly go onto your piece to get started. And I'm just going to start building up some layers here. So this color is pretty much a dark, like magenta violet here. And then I can even use, I have this Dakota pastel, which I love. Now this is their new extra dark. I bought a stack of them. I'm trying to see, I don't think I have the exact name. Let me see if I have that here. I might have it. No, I didn't pull it out. But they're basically, Dakota got a brand just for them. And I'm look how dark this is. So I was in love with this Terry Ludwig 600 violet. And this is right up there with it. It's almost a black. So it's really beautiful. And you can do pretty much a lot of the dark work in here. And it is a soft pastel. And I can go in here and use it for all of my... And this will look definitely a little chaos before it gets into beauty. That's just how it rolls. So I got those darks in there, and that's that beautiful violet. And then I do have a darker, like a Nupastel. This can go, but this is almost a gray in there, so it's really not dark enough because I went in with that violet. I have a Terry, not a Terry Ludwig, oh gosh, all of a sudden I went blank, but it's the Tirages, the Diane Townsend. These are one of the extra darks in there. Or this can just be black. And then I can go in here and just start building up these greens. And these are probably like a Sennelier or a Schmincke. And, you know, if they're a little softer, that's totally fine. I love that color. It's like an olive green. And then I can go in, I think this is a Blick stick or a Rembrandt. I'm bringing up the value. And then I want to put a little fleck in here with this like raw, let me think, I think this is more of like in the PanPastel, this would be considered like a raw sienna. So see the raw sienna and this, they're pretty close. This looks a little more yellow on here, or an ochre. All right. So now I'm going to go, I have my like red iron oxide in here that I've already used, and I found a stick. This is a Sennelier stick, and I'm just going to start layering a little bit of that in. Now, I don't mind breaking these and getting them a little bit smaller to create different we want to have that kind of flesh hue underneath, so that's what I'm going with here. That's my goal. I have another color that has a little bit more magenta in here. You guys know how I like to rainbow things out. And then I'm going to start going a little bit lighter, shifting into that skin tone, and these things are going to peek out through. But let me just see if there's any more questions here before I move on. We have our questionnaire going in. Let's see. All right. This whole Samaj says, this whole underpainting thing just blows my mind. It's amazing how dark it is and how light it gets. It's just wild. Well, I'm glad you're engaged. I'm glad you're excited. That's why I'm glad that you're here. That's why I'm here. I like to use the Nupastel and 99% alcohol to create an underpainting. Definitely can do that. I'm giving you the world of PanPastels and underpainting, and it's a little bit more controlled. So we're definitely going to find what works. You got to find what works for you, and that's what my goal is for today here. Let me go a little bit lighter there. Okay. Is blocking in considered an underpainting? I think it's very similar, Paula. You can call it either or, you know. I do think they relate really well together. When I'm blocking in with PanPastel and doing a full PanPastel painting, I'm mostly doing that with my darks and my midtones and getting my colors figured out. So it just depends how you're navigating it. What did MJ? I might be on the minority, but I don't have any PanPastels. Yeah, you might be in the majority here, MJ. I don't know if you watched some of my other lives, but I'm usually PanPastel forward, and I'm just sprinkling this in once a month into my my Pastel Insider membership to kind of incorporate both. And so that's what I am doing today. Luis, you're so sweet, Luis. Let's see here. Okay. I've mostly used underpaintings as toning the underlayer. I have to wrap my head around loose underlayers that become more defined as you layer up. Yeah, it's definitely a whole different world. And that's what, you know, a lot of my lessons will bring you up to a certain point, and then you could even go from there into sticks if you wanted to. I'm just definitely showing you, because my account here is Soft Pastel Live, so it's all about soft pastel. So I'm starting to branch out a little bit more and teach more of a wide range, even though I'm more PanPastel focused. Hey Michelle, welcome. So glad that you're here. This layering up is a wild concept, so different from other mediums like watercolor. Yeah, watercolor is just a different approach. I watercolored for 10 years, and I think you just reverse because you got to keep all your whites, and you're painting in such a different way, like almost light to dark. So it's definitely different. All right. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to see our poll here. We're closing out our poll. So 52% of you have done underpaintings. Well, that's really cool to know. So I have kind of this fleshy, kind of a rose, dusty rose here. That I'm going to build up these layers with. And then I'm going to go in here with this kind of like an orangey flesh. I actually think I might hit it into a lighter one than that before my tooth fills up. And you want to go real light-handed. And then I'm going to go another step up in value with like an ivory. And this is a little closer to the paper. And I'm going to go back one step here and use this really kind of creamy for the eye line here. And then hit that with a little bit of and then at this stage I kind of want to work in a little bit of that flesh look. And so to do that, I want it to be a little glowy. Now, I do have this harder Nupastel, which I could, if I put it in right now, it's going to slough off my softer layers. So you can see that. This one's a little bit orange, but I kind of want that. I have like a blick here, and what happens if I use this harder blick, this is a good example of why you want to build up from your harder pastels to your soft. So I've used softer pastels right here. And this is a harder brand, like a Blick, or it could be a Rembrandt. Both of those are about, so it's not going to go in as easy. I can rub it and get it in there, but it's not as soft. So if I go to something like a Schmincke, not a Schmincke, a Sennelier, I can go with, it's like butter. I'm not pushing against anything. And that's one of the big things that I really love about those, is that I can build up, but you have to definitely know why you're doing it. So this stage, it's a little bit of a back and forth dance. Have a little bit of a neutral, like yellowish brown here. And then I'm going to even out. I have this Mount Vision. And then I'm going to go in here with my Mount Vision. And I'm going to start bringing the eye in there. So we can have these violet undertones here. And they're also going to mix together. So that's something to consider too, is that they're going to mix. I'm going to have my little burnt sienna in here. I'm trying to get this dark background there. And then I also have, this is like a Terry Ludwig. I can bring a little bit of this back and go back and forth on it. So you'll see that. And you just start kind of, I want it to be there, but not as, and then they start kind of moving on the surface like paint. So now I'm going to answer some chat here. No, Pam, I would not use a fixative when I'm done. Now, the biggest thing I like to teach about that is this sanded paper, doesn't matter what you use on it, you don't have to use fixative on it. Same with like Clairefontaine. You don't really have to use fixative on anything. I think people just get really scared, and a lot of that scaredness is because they're not, they don't have so much use under their belt that they've experienced it. It's not going to just smear off. We're not meant to go touch it and pat it and stuff like that. All of the color ones get put behind glass, but these pieces specifically, they can be sticks. I mean, we're working with the same medium. All soft pastel for full color, you know, would need to be protected behind glass. You would blow it off, tap it off before you frame it, get rid of any extra sediment, things like that, and protect it between two pieces of glassine until you frame it. But no, I don't use any fixative. It can change all their whites, and I just have never used it, and I'm going on 7 years. I use it for like the under layers to hold a layer if I don't want it to move. So let's see here. Jonas is in the house. Hello, Jonas. Okay. I was late here. Is the paper still 600? Yep, and I'm going to put all the supplies in the details before I leave. So just, you know, I mean, I'll put it in after the live. It'll be there. So you'll have all the details. So glad that you made it, Jonas. Okay, I'm just catching up on chat here real quick. Well, I'm so glad that you're having a great time, Samaj. Shiva lives in Canada. There are some Canadian places. You guys, if you want to buy UArt paper, go to UArt, to their website. They have a location locator, a store locator in Canada. You can just type in where you're at, and it'll list all the stores around you that carry the paper that you might be interested in. The biggest challenge is they might not have dark, they might have light. So, you know, you can go to UArt, and they have a specific spot on their website with a store locator. Well, Samaj, I have not used the Degas fixative. If you want to go try the Degas fixative, go for it. Go test it out. If you like to use fixative, that might be your jam. I just don't. I don't feel it's necessary. So that's just how I roll with it. I'm going to put in some of the, bring up the lights in the eye a little bit here. I have some violets in different ranges. And this one is a little bit of a harder, I think it's a Rembrandt. And this is going to level things out a little bit with the eye. And it's going to give me that contrast around the pupil. So I'm going to have this gray, more of a neutral. It's got a little bit of violet in it, but it's a little more neutral that I'm going to pop in here. This is super soft. This is either, I think this is a Sennelier or it's a Schmincke. And then I'm going to go back and forth here with a little bit of my violet. create some shadow. And they kind of mix together on there. I even have this like, let's see, this is about the same. That's about the same. Just trying to find a mid. I have this darker, that's pretty dark. That'll pop that up in the back. But you can see, you can just play and go back and forth, and it's really, really fun because you get to, you know, it's like you're painting with pigment. You're basically painting with pigment. So I can smooth out the shadows a little bit in that. And then we're gonna, I still have more to do, but I'm gonna put the highlight in because I always think that's the real magic part. Now, I have one of these that's super soft, but look how white that is. That's so white. A lot of times I really don't like to go that high on the value scale. So I'm gonna pick something that's a little bit less, and you'll start to see the different ranges of colors. Like this one's a little bit less. And I could even do the eye in this one, but, or even this violet. I can do the fleck, but I'm just gonna go in here. Something fell just a second. Oh, it's just my pen. I got lots of stuff going on. So now I'm gonna go in here with my little speck of life here. Now, because this is a super soft, it's going on top of this like butter. So that's the big benefit of like a super soft pastel. I'm gonna go in here and play with my eye a little bit more. Bring down that shadow a little bit more. And I did have this like, I'm gonna step back here. So it's really developing into an eye pretty quickly. It's just kind of crazy. I have this harder pastel, but I really love the color on it. It's got some magenta in there. I'm just gonna scrub a little bit of that in. And then I can play with this transition. So I want it to be more loose, so that's what I'm developing right here. So you can just play until your little heart's desire. You know, it's so much fun. But, you know, I feel the same way about PanPastels when I'm working with them. It's just really fun to kind of bring in another level. Okay, I got a little spot there that's going to drive me crazy, so I'm going to get that cleaned up right here. Kind of just trying to loosen this up a little bit more. And you can see I'm not really pushing in super hard. Okay, I'm going to answer some chat before I put any more little finishing touches on here. I have little eyelashes I'm going to show you, but let me catch up on chat. Okay, Dawn, have you ever used finger covers to blend in the UArt to save your skin? You know, Louise, I am not really blending in on the lower layers of UArt. As I showed you with the PanPastel underpainting, I am doing a lot of that on the lower layers. So once it gets a little full here, I could just basically just brush them lightly or do something, but I'm not spending a lot of my time rubbing in with my fingers. It's very subtle. It's very loose. So no, I did buy them. Here, I'll show you guys. Let me get them. I did buy the little cot things for the fingers, but I ended up not using them. I'm seeing if I have them right here. I usually keep them out here, but maybe I don't. I didn't plan to share them, but they are these little finger things. They can be called all kinds of things, but they are basically little finger protectors. I don't have them available right here to show you, but I just don't rub them that much. If you're rubbing that much, I think you're rubbing too much. Let me just put it that way. If your fingers are going raw, then you're using maybe over blending or over rubbing, and you should be using maybe a tool or something like that. Okay, let's see. Thank you, Jonas. I'm glad that you like the eye colors. Shiva says, I have all the sticks that you're using. Well, that's awesome. I have Schmincke, Sennelier, Rembrant, and Monog. I haven't heard of Monog, or I don't know how to pronounce that. I've tested several surfaces, and if you get the better surfaces, then you'll not need to use fixative. Exactly. These demos have allowed me to experiment a lot more with color. I would never have considered using purples or reds for skin tone. It's really fun. Well, I'm glad that I can broaden your, get you excited. My whole goal is to get you excited to show up. And if I'm doing that, then that's a huge bonus. So let's see. Finger cots. Yeah, that's definitely what I used. But I don't know. It just depends. I did use them for a while. I thought I had a couple here, and I'm trying to see where I stashed them, because I have a tendency to stash things in so-called safe places. My husband says it must be safe, is what he says. So yeah. But okay, I'm going to show you a little thing to add a little bit of a detail. But the one thing I really want you to notice is I did not use any white on the eye. If you go use white and you don't put any shadow or any type of development there, it looks like a cartoon or more of a illustration in a way. And if you're going for that look, then definitely go for that. But I just want you to look at the values of the eye, because it really makes a big difference. And there are some spots where you'd want to be a little bit more detailed, like that spot right there. I'm just going to clean that up. But let's see. Michelle, thank you for cheering everyone on. If all of you will go like the video, you can do that during the live. That really helps out my channel. For those of you watching the replay, tell me where you're from. Tell me if you tried out an underpainting before. Talk to me. I would love to talk to you guys. When I know so many of you are watching replay, I can tell because I see how many people are watching. So I would definitely love to interact with you. Tell me something about your pastel journey. I'll do my best to reply on all the comments, but I definitely love to hear from some of my replay watchers. I steal from my wife when I use the hot glue. It protects the fingers. Ah. Oh, well, you're using it for a hot glue gun. I see what you mean. Okay, so I'm going to go on and we're going to add the eyelashes here, and then I'm going to briefly go over kind of what I was going to talk about. Make sure I have everything in there. And so what I really like is at this spot, you can take like a pastel pencil or charcoal pencil. I don't like to do the full eyelashes throughout. I like to give a subtle, like you can see here, it's really subtle. I want to give you the idea of eyelashes, and then the viewer can fill in the rest. If I go around and do it all, it's going to be really, really a lot. So I just like to And if I feel like that bumped that line up a little too much, I can always bring it down. And so that's the fun thing too, is I can go in here and shape this eye a little bit. Say I feel like it's just a little bit too wide-eyed. I should have done this before I made my correction. I mean, I should have done this before I did that, but it's still easy. You can still make changes. Get that shape a little bit better there. And then I can even go in with this pencil if I wanted a little bit more definition here with that. And then if I feel like it went a little much, I can add a little bit of this over. And then I can just put these back in. Feel like that's pretty good. I think I did an eye, guys. I did an eye. So let's see, it's Munguro. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that, Shiva. How many eyes do you think you've created in your career, says Karen? I don't know, hundreds of eyes. I went on an eye kick just for this live, just to play, and I have 4 eyes just here. I have all kinds of eyes. I have eyes everywhere. They're all looking at you guys. Like, I got eyes. Woo. I love eyes. I love to create eyes. Got lots of eyes going on here. I did it on the black paper. This is what the black paper looked like. And I just felt like the cream was great for the demo, but I really love creating it on the black paper too. I felt like the black paper though, you don't need to use as much darks and as much underpainting because the paper is toned. And so you can kind of get like right to it. So that is one of the benefits that I love about the black paper, but you can still get some really beautiful skin tone. You just have to bring them all up pretty, you know, quite a bit. So let me see here. I want to, so I think one of the other things I want to talk about is, you know, in the beginning when I started using stick pastels, I was really kind of frustrated because I just didn't fit in the like traditional ways. You know, I do like to do some landscapes and I like to do some portraiture, and you know, you can see in my style that I like a lot of that. But I kind of felt like everything that was out there with sticks always made me feel a little bit of an outsider. So when I started really enjoying it is when I just kind of dove in to like how I want to use them. How do I use them in my process? I don't have to look like them. And I think really trying to even think about your own journey when you're learning, you know, don't let that stop you to explore. And maybe yours looks a little different, but you're on a journey and we just want to get you inspired to show up and play. And that's what these live streams are all about. And you know, if you're wanting to dive deeper and go deeper, the lesson I'm going to do this week is an owl's head. And it's going to be a great horned owl with lots of really cool textures. We're going to do owl eyes and have the full face, and I'm going to crop ahead and do that. So it's going to be really approachable. We're not going to have to deal with composition really heavily. It's all going to be focused on building these beautiful textures and layers along the way. So if you want to dive deeper in there, I'm going to put my Pastel Insider link in here that you can go check it out if you want to be a member. I know we have quite a few of you in chat who are Pastel Insider members. Raise your hand. I always love to see you guys. I know most of you. Just a great way to kind of explore things on a deeper level. because you can only say so much in a live. And so here is this. There's Michelle's a Pastel Insider member. Luis, Karen Marshall. No, you guys have been in there for a while. Sylvia, Crystal Lewis. I saw you come back there, Crystal Lewis. Sandy Morris is a pastel. That's awesome. That's awesome. And you know, it's just a great way. Susan Thames, there you are, girl. You're prolific, man. You've been showing up a ton. You should be pretty proud of yourself. Chrisella, Terry Powers is a member. Pam Duvall is a member. So I know I have quite a few of you in here, and I'm really excited to kind of bridge this gap a little bit, but I'm not here to overwhelm you. I mean, PanPastel is my first love, but you can see how we've integrated PanPastel to really cut down on the lift. And then you're not so worried about using these beautiful pastel colors. Now, what I would love for you guys before I go, I would love if there's any other questions, anything about buying them, anything that I can help you with before you go that would help you on your journey. So definitely reach out and ask some questions here. This is a great time. Well, I'm glad you're back, Crystal. I'm just really stoked that you're part of the community, and all of you here that are Pastel Insider members. And for those of you who aren't, I'm really glad that you're part of this really positive community too. And hopefully I'll be able to have you come in and check it out a little bit. I have a new free lesson that's going to be launching here by the end of the month. I'll give you a little sneak peek of it. I am doing a full lesson that is an intro to PanPastel. And it'll be everything you want to know to get started. And so that is launching at the end of the month in my free library. I've been taking a while to do it because of life circumstances, but I really wanted to have a free lesson that really gets you in and kind of takes you where you're not so overwhelmed, especially if you're new. And I think it's going to really help people just kind of demystify everything. Just like how I demystified the sticks, and that's what I'm hoping I did today. I want to demystify getting started with PanPastel because it's an incredible medium. So this is I'm calling it the Enchanted Mushroom, and it's going to be the intro to PanPastel. So I'm working on getting this set up, and this will be released here soon. I have it filmed. I just got to edit it and do all of that. So let me see if there's some questions in here. I'm guessing you have a list of the things you suggest for us to begin with somewhere. Samaj, I have some of that in my free library, like I was just saying for the PanPastel. I'm definitely giving you a list. I'm also going to list out what we talked about for some of the supplies today in the comments in the description below. But if there's something specific, you need to ask. And I'll tell you if I'll have that listed or not. Do you feel that it's necessary to buy the full set of a brand, especially if it only has 200 shades? I don't think it's necessary. I think it depends. Are you heavily using the brand? Do you love the brand? Are you showing up and creating pieces of art that you are loving? I just don't think one brand can fulfill everything for you. I've seen people come, I went to, you guys, it was crazy. I went to a retreat, like a workshop with the guy I was telling you about, the Tony Lane. Now, I was already a teacher at that time. I've been teaching for a few years, but this was way outside my comfort zone. It was all sticks, it was more traditional, and I just wanted to do it for an experience. Now, the women that showed up there, and I'm not saying it's bad or good or whatever, I'm just saying it's a perspective. I had one woman there, she brought her whole set of Unison, and that's all she had was the full line of Unison, and she busted that sucker out and brought it all out and everything, and it was just a lot. I think you could get away with, like, look, for this piece, I have all these out here, but they're not necessarily ones that I used in the eye. You know, I pulled out the ones that, let me pull out the ones I didn't use and show you what I actually used for this eye. And then you can kind of gauge and see, like, let's get rid of my duplicates there. And I think this can give you more of a perspective. Like I could have used all the Nupastels. I did a little time lapse with the Nupastels, but that's not everything I used here. So they're a little bit messed up, but, and I got them a little out of order. All right. I'm just going to put them in, even though they're messy. Some of them are broke. Okay. So like, these are basically what I use to do this eye. I'm patting them in, so maybe I can get them in. And so I have a pretty good value range, but like I said, I used PanPastel for my darks. So I have a mix here, and this was a softer one, but I had a harder one. You know, I had multiples in here. I could do most of this with these Nupastels and then just finish them with the ultra softs at the end. I did this version of the eye right here, mostly with the Nupastels, and then I went into the soft sticks. So I think, you know, you don't need a whole set. So like, I think you just need to use them. Like this one, I think it would be fun to say, okay, let me take this set and do an eye with it. I thought about doing that today, but I also wanted to be a little bit more in my own comfort zone. So I pulled what I liked. But I think maybe on one of these lives, I can take one of these sets, which is, you know, they also, you know, they say plein air and they say the numbers on, you know, urban set, but you don't have to do just urban and plein air. They're just labeling these things to sell it to you. They're not, they're picking colors, they're curating colors, and they're trying to repackage it to sell you on the set. So, you know, I think you just, what I would focus on is getting a good basic value range of colors and then working with that. Like these I can use for many different things, and going with your PanPastel as your guide too, that really helped me. Like I grabbed violets, I grabbed red iron, you know, oxide, I grabbed greens, I grabbed that. I'm going to go in way deeper on that when I'm doing the lesson too. So let's see. Wow, that mushroom is brilliant. I love mushrooms. I'm the fungi sort of fella. Oh, well, I'm glad to know. I hope you like it. I'm excited to release it. Value is king. You know, value is king, Jonas. Like everything that I read, if you want to really level up your art, it's all about value. And that's what I teach, value forward. I'm all about value. And, you know, taking those sets and changing them to black and white, taking the colors that you have and organizing them in value like I have over here is really powerful. You're going to see in your greens how many values you have. I would say taking what you have and really organizing them in that way, even if your full set is only like one tray and it's sparse, say your full set is just this, it really makes a difference of, you know, really think value forward. You could do a lot with multiple colors, but you got to be value forward. Did I just get a super chat? Karen, you are the best. Thank you so much. Thank you for incorporating the soft pastels with the PanPastels. This was an excellent lesson, quite enjoyable, and really appreciated it. Big hug. Thank you, Karen. I'm so glad you feel that way. Well, I can't wait for you to see the lesson I'm going to be doing. I think you're going to love it. So I'll be showing you guys that, the finished one, during the live next week. But yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. I have a lot of things planned. I'm really excited about it. Thank you so much. Let's see. So Samaj says, so if we can buy things in open stock, do you have a list of what you suggest to get a beginner set? Not for sticks. I don't. I'm working on that for PanPastel, and that's what I'm talking about. Like, if you get a set, just make sure it's got good values in it. And I don't know if you were here for the full chat, but in the beginning I show you some sets, some ideas, some suggestions, but that's about all I can do with like the blue earth. I showed you that has a great value. There was a whole, it was very aligned with PanPastel. I showed that at the beginning. So I'll list all of those and link those up after the live, but you're gonna realize that it's not a perfect purchase. You're not gonna buy the set and it's gonna tick all the boxes. PanPastel is a little bit different in that way because I'm using it the way the line is, it's used in a whole different way. So I'm trying to bridge the gap of kind of playing with them both. And basically, I use PanPastel heavily with pastel pencils. So I'm just using jumbo pastel pencils, if you really think about it. It's all the same medium. It's just how much binder is in it. The cheap ones, the off-brand ones that you're gonna find, if you're struggling, it's probably because it has a lot of binder in it and not a lot of pigment in it. So that's what you're dealing with, and they might be super hard, and they might, you know, it also really depends on what paper you're using. Paper is king. Paper's king. So let's see. MJ has a suggestion for what works for MJ there. Let's see here. Jennifer says, thinking about value changes my buying strategy for sticks. Thanks. I'm so glad that that helped you today. Good, good. Well, that's what the whole point of this. It's beginner intro to sticks. I hope that really has helped you. I'm definitely going to go deeper in with this, with the lesson that we're going to work on. And I just really am excited to be here with you all and sharing the love for this magical medium with you. And I love being able to work in the PanPastel with the sticks. I definitely think that's where I like to go. I think it's really maybe fun to go do alcohol underpaintings and watercolor underpaintings. But the thing is when you deal with watercolor, you can't erase, you can't change anything. And if you're working with sticks, that might be fine. But in my style for PanPastel, I like to change things along the way. Sticks is a little bit more permanent, like erasing and changing isn't as easy, but you can still erase on this paper. So it's decent. Like I can totally go in here and erase this down and make changes if I want to. But the PanPastel does stick in there a little, I mean, the sticks will stick in there a little bit harsher. So, and I can just go back in and kind of make that change. Just seeing if there's any other questions because I have a few extra minutes today. Let's see. Samaj says, thank you for your awesome insight and sharing so much. You have a brilliant artist heart. So nice to be in such a brilliant community. You're all awesome creatives. Well, thank you. I'm so glad. I'm just so glad you're having a great time. MJ says, call Dakota for help when purchasing. That is a great suggestion. They are wonderful there. I mean, if you have any questions, you're not going to go wrong purchasing anything off of Dakota. Everything there is just really great quality. And you can just get, you know, some values and then figure out what you like and, you know, maybe work with a portrait type vibe set. Look at those colors and maybe just grab a few of them and try them out. You don't have to get it all done right away. Realize it's a journey and it's slow to build up your set. I mean, this is 7 years, and I do have a quick story. I have these pastels, and let me see. I have a couple of them. I have quite a few of them. So I had this old vintage pastel set, and when I was 19, I went out, bought a canvas, bought a set of pastels, and I thought I was going to make a painting. I had no clue what I was doing. Obviously, it didn't work out, but I spent the money on the pastels, so I kept them. And so that was when I was 19. So I am 52 now. And these are just as bright and as amazing as they are. They go on just fine. They're gorgeous. They're kind of more of a medium pastel. They're kind of up there with like a Diane Townsend. So, you know, if you buy high quality, they'll last a long time. I mean, these are a long time, you guys. I have this bright neon one. I have quite a few, but it's pretty amazing how much they, you know, stay. And I mean, that is super neon. It doesn't show as much in the camera as it does in person. So yeah, Dakota Pastel is amazing. Gia says it was so much fun to watch and informative. Thanks so much, but I think my level is below beginner. You know, don't judge yourself too hard. Like, you know, especially with a lot of my lessons, I give a lot of line art. So it's just practicing. We all have to start somewhere. Don't be too hard on yourself. You got to be willing to have ugly art, or every time you show up, that's bringing you closer to learning more. And if it turns out where you think it's ugly or you don't like it, or it doesn't look exactly like mine, heck, this is many years. So you should just really celebrate, in my opinion, showing up. That's 90% of the battle. If you're showing up, you are ahead of 90% of people. So showing up and playing. Morgan says, these sessions are part of my weekly self-care, a cup of coffee, a live stream before heading to work. Oh, I love that, Morgan. I'm so happy that you feel that way. Definitely making me want to grab my sticks. Oh, I love that you guys feel that way. Thank you so much, Dawn, for sharing your knowledge and your talent. You're welcome, Loretta. I'm so glad you're part of the community. This is my rejuvenation time each week, and the one thing I look forward to each week. So thankful for the time, Dawn. Aw, thank you, Karen. All right, you guys. All right, I'm glad you're heading to the easel, says Sylvia. So I'm going to sign off a little early today. I hope this inspired you just to show up and play. Don't feel like you have to go out and buy a whole bunch of pastels, you guys. You can buy a smaller set that you don't have to go all in on. But it's definitely fun. It's really fun to explore. And the biggest thing is, if you buy that set and you used it up, be proud of yourself. Don't sit there and go, oh my gosh, my stick broke and now I only have this little stub. Use the stub. Be proud that you used it. Be proud that you showed up and that you bought it and now you're doing something with it. It's a journey, you guys, and if we always think about the money and I'm going to go through it, then I'm going to have to buy another one, we won't use it. We'll be freed up and we won't use it. So the same way that goes with the PanPastel. I always like to celebrate when I go through all my supplies. All right, you guys have a brilliant week too, and I will talk to you guys next Tuesday. All right, take care.